It's my pleasure to hand it over to Wayne now in a virtual way. Wayne will reveal the latest insights we got from IB Europe's Attitudes to Programmatic survey. I'm really looking forward to hear from you, Wayne.
Firstly,
the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Jorg. Firstly, a massive thank you to Jorg. I'm sorry that I can't be there today. Flight cancellations out of the UK with the British weather are pretty typical. But listen, I'm really happy to be here virtually, and a big thank you as well to Helen and the team from IAB Europe, because there's been a lot of scrambling around to make some changes this morning. This is me. For those of you that don't already know me, I'm Wayne Tassie. I'm chair of IAB Europe's Programmatic Trading Committee and Group Director of Integrated Solutions at DoubleVerify. Clearly, I need to update my photo because I don't look like that anymore, but I will get that changed. Now, before we dive into today's panel, it's a pleasure to be the one that's going to share the latest insights from our Attitudes to Programmatic Advertising study. This research has become an industry benchmark, examining the main drivers, barriers, and evolving strategies to programmatic. For now, I'll be presenting a snapshot of the study, followed by an engaging discussion with our esteemed panel of European industry leaders. Together, we'll unpack the latest programmatic stats and explore how the industry attitudes have evolved over the past decade. And now, please, just as a reminder, if you've got any questions on this programmatic study or any for our panelists later on, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Perfect. So now in its 10th year, this study draws on the insights of 250 industry players, from advertisers to ad tech vendors across 30 markets, both European and global. With such a diverse mix, we're seeing how programmatic strategies and adoption are evolving across the ecosystem. If we look at the value of digital ad spend in Europe, let's start with the bigger picture. Europe's digital ad market grew by an impressive 11.1% last year, reaching 96.9 billion, according to IB Europe's latest AdX report. This growth rate even surpasses some international markets, highlighting Europe's expanding digital landscape. Now, if we look at the next slide, US versus European market growth, while the US market is 2.5 times larger, Europe's growth rate is accelerating year over year. Europe saw an 11.1% increase compared to 7.3%. Europe is clearly gaining ground, solidifying its presence in the global digital market. Now, if we look at programmatic share in display advertising, programmatic ads rose by 7.4% last year, topping 12 billion and making up over half of total display. However, the growth rate is beginning to plateau, signaling that the programmatic market is reaching a certain stage of maturation. So if we look at the attitudes that the survey picked up, we're going to dive into exploring trends, investment opportunities, growth barriers, sustainability, and the transition of addressable models. So first of all, we'll look at the top trends from the 2024 findings. Here's the top trends from this year's survey, and we're going to see how these align with AdX investment statistics and highlight emerging patterns in the programmatic space. Bottom line is that our report supports AdX's data. We see a tale of two cities where advertisers are slightly pulling back whilst agencies are leaning in. Programmatic is becoming the default for agencies, showing a maturing landscape and really varied approaches. Kind of key programmatic growth areas is where we are stakeholders about anticipated growth areas. Advertisers and publishers lean towards CTV, which is pretty unsurprising, while agencies and ad tech chose digital out of home and retail media. Now, these choices reflect where each group sees potential in the coming year. If we look at programmatic growth driven by CTV, when we look at all options, CTV and AI emerge as the top growth areas, with the majority of respondents placing them at the forefront of their plans. If we look at audience discovery, in 2024, advertisers named audience discovery as their primary driver for programmatic investment, which is a really notable shift from last year when operational efficiency was the main focus. This trend shows that targeting and transparency are really paramount. Now, looking at cost efficiency, agencies are really prioritizing cost efficiency as a top driver. This remains their primary motivation, with audience discovery also ranking highly. And this is like a really consistent approach to maximizing returns. Quality of media, when it comes to investment barriers, is a really key driver for them across the board this year. All stakeholder groups named it as their top concern, surpassing previous issues like sustainability and economic uncertainty. This highlights the need for stronger industry standards. Now, if we look at the data, we're seeing a nuanced approach. Advertisers and agencies are adapting by integrating both first and second party data more widely. And you see the sharp drop. This is really showing a sharp drop in the reliance on third party cookies among publishers. And this really suggests readiness for new addressability models. Now, looking at solutions for audience discovery, contextual targeting is really the preferred solution for agencies and publishers, whilst advertisers also emphasize first party data. Identity solutions, which we've been talking about at IAB for quite a while now, are really gaining traction, especially among publishers looking for sustainable options. Now, really understanding third-party dependency, the survey reveals that agencies lead in understanding their third-party cookie reliance, indicating kind of proactive efforts to prepare for any kind of cookieless future. We're not sure what that's going to look like yet, but no, sessions like these really help us look and frame what 2025 is going to be like. Now, from an advertiser perspective, while some groups are well prepared, less than half of advertisers feel ready for the post third party cookie world, which underscores the need for further industry support and education. Now, when we're thinking from what the experts think, we've now covered all of the key highlights, and I'm really thrilled to introduce my panel of industry experts from the Programmatic Trading Committee. They're going to dive into kind of deeper into these findings and discuss the programmatic landscape today and their vision of really what is to come.